Welcome to Rising Woman Leaders, a safe space for women to thrive in community where their voices and stories are heard. We're a sisterhood supporting each other to live our dreams and embody the sacred feminine to restore balance on our planet. Join us each week as we return to the unconditional love and guidance of our heart and our womb. I'm your host, Meredith Rom, and I invite you to walk this path of beauty, devotion, and service with us. The Rising Woman Leaders Priestess Initiation Program is now open for enrollment and spaces are already filling up. This is a feminine leadership initiation, a high priestess sisterhood, and woman circle facilitator training program. It's 10 months long, held online. Join us on a path of devotion, beauty, and service as we go through a series of initiation gateways to claim your role as a priestess. We'll join together to reveal a deeper meaning of existence and anchor into our living as an embodiment of love to serve our planet and future generations. We'll be exploring themes of femininity, devotion, wildness, compassion, boundaries, prosperity, service, love, vision, and leadership. Some highlights of the course curriculum includes having 7 private healing sessions with me, where we can look at womb healing, leadership skills, how to step more fully into your dreams, your goals through mentorship. We'll have group calls every month and training modules where we'll explore energetic clearing, the wheel of the year, astrological foundations, womb healing, forgiveness, stepping into the beauty way, creating a temple of your body, your home, fertility, sensuality, love, intimacy, creating a daily sadhana practice, deepening your connection with the dream world, the power of prayer, healing your relationship to money, opening up to receive more deeply, feminine abundance and magnetism. We'll be stepping into the themes of sacred mission and activating your voice, refining your contribution in the world, as well as learning how to facilitate women's circles. We'll have time for exploring release and renewal, creativity, stepping into your soul essence, and writing your vows to claim your role as a priestess. All the details are up at risingwomanleaders.com. More info on our website. Today's episode is an excerpt from my recent webinar called The Role of the Priestess in the Modern Age. If you'd like to listen to the whole webinar, the replay is still available at risingwomanleaders.com/webinar. It's an honor to be here with you and to be bringing people together from around the world who are feeling called to this path of the priestess. Some of you may be brand new to this concept and this archetype and this idea, and I'm going to share more about what the priestess means to me. And some of you may have walked this path for a long time. You may have been in ceremony and ritual and facilitation, so just know there's something here for everyone. But the fact that we do not need to feel alone on this path is truly pivotal. And I've really been feeling and seeing a shift of the amount of people that are reaching out to me through just articles I've written about the priestess or different things on my website, because this is something that they're searching for, and this awakening is happening right now. So why did I create this webinar today? So I was thinking about how there are really two concepts, 2 ideas that really lead us to our purpose. And one of them is our joy, what we are just naturally drawn to in our lives. But another one is actually our heartbreak, the things that just break our hearts and make us feel like, wow, I can't not do something about this. And one of the things that breaks my heart most, which I'm sure you can all relate, is harming the earth. how as a society we are choosing to be driven by numbers, to have the money keep going up, to save money at all costs, to make more money at all costs. And this way of thinking is really from the head. It's a form of masculinity that's not integrated with the heart, with the sacred feminine. When we're dropped into our hearts, we feel so deeply connected to Mother Earth. We can't imagine to be harming her for our own financial gains. And it was about a year ago. So I usually live in Sonoma County. I'm in Kauai right now. I've been here for a couple months. And it was a year ago when fires broke out. They've been breaking out for the last 4 years pretty consistently. And I found out something because the fires a year ago, a lot of them were being started by PG&E power lines. And I found out actually that they were running numbers of like, okay, what are the costs of us redoing all of our power lines and making them up to code so that they're not going to be making sparks and having these huge fires happen. And then they ran the numbers of like, what are the chances of these fires happening? How many homes and lives would be lost? And what are the actual numbers and the costs of us not fixing the power lines? And it was literally like just looking at these numbers that they decided, we're just going to keep the power lines as they are. We're going to allow these fires to start potentially. And when I heard that, I just felt like, how can we be choosing this over lives, over people's homes, and the intense amount of fear that people go through when these fires have been happening? I mean, not to even mention just climate change and everything that has been mismanagement of the forest, not allowing Indigenous people to be doing controlled burns, all of these things that have impacted what was happening out there. And I was feeling in a lot of grief that humanity was at a place of just continually choosing to be in those numbers rather than actually thinking about the impacts in the human lives. And I was on an airplane. I was actually flying to the East Coast at the time to visit family. And I was just in deep prayer and asking, how can I help? How can I give back? What is my role in all this? What is something that I can do? Because I think one of the things we all struggle with is feeling helpless. Like we see so much suffering in the world, and how can we actually give back? And the message that came was to drop into that heart space and to invite more people to be a pillar and a frequency on this earth of the sacred feminine, and to restore balance through our world through empowering this frequency of the sacred feminine so that we can be this field, this collective that strengthens and is able to give back in a bigger way. And the feeling was like to call the women together who are feeling this deep calling to give back and to serve, and to help them overcome any of their fears or whatever might be holding them back so that they can feel empowered and to be sharing their gifts. And also to just simply be holding that frequency. If we have more of us all around the planet united and holding that essence of the sacred feminine, it strengthens that field. And a little later, I'm going to talk about morphogenetic fields. But when that field is strengthened, it makes it easier for more and more people to wake up to this concept. So this webinar today is really a call for the women that are feeling this calling to the priestess to purify, to align, and to activate in this call for world change. And as we step into embody the priestess, we're here to hold this frequency of the sacred feminine for our planet, not to rule over the masculine, but to be in that divine feminine masculine unity, to have that equality again on our planet. And I believe that's what we're heading towards. That's what all of this global shift and change, what we're stepping into. And we can begin to work on that within ourselves. So the priestess path is a deep calling. I can bet when each of you first heard that word, it felt like something was deeply moved inside of you. And that's how it felt for me. And if you're here, I imagine you've probably walked this path perhaps for many lifetimes. And if you feel drawn to this archetype, yeah, chances are you've been doing this before. And so this is an opportunity to be in your remembering. And some of the things that we face on this path that hold us back is that we are highly sensitive, empathic. We can feel the world so deeply. We can be greatly affected by this form of grief of just what's been happening. And that can leave us feeling just unfocused, unsure of how to move ahead. And not to mention, a lot of us I know are feeling alone and lacking community. So today I'm going to be covering more about this archetype of the priestess, why this role so needed at this time. 6 spiritual tools that can help you in these times of rapid acceleration and ascension. Practices to clear and to heal these 5 core wounds that I've identified of the priestess. And pillars of the priestess path, like how can we actually activate and step into this world change? And so I just have a couple guidelines I want to invite you into. And the first is our listening. There's a way that we can listen where we are actively listening, where we're absorbing information with our whole body. It's an act of fertile listening, to listen to someone in a way where we are fully receiving it into our whole embodiment. So if you have any distractions up, I know we live in a world of distractions, social media and many web browsers and all of that. So I just wanted to speak to that as an invitation, like maybe this next hour, 75 minutes, you gift to yourself. Maybe you want to lie down, maybe you want to close your eyes in meditation, whatever just brings you into your presence, and anything you need to just stay in that presence space. If you want to be taking notes, all of that is welcome. And I'm going to invite us to drop back into the body and to close our eyes and just soften. And a big reason I'm leading this webinar today and calling us together is because some of my guides asked me to, and I definitely have some resistances that come up around just sharing myself and being vulnerable and putting myself out there. But there was really clear guidance of just like, it's time to call these women together to share what you've been learning, to hold this space for all of you. And one of the messages that I was receiving is just that each of you that are here right now, you're meant to be here on this planet. There's no mistake. And I invite you to tune back in to this energy of just being a soul. Being a soul and making a choice to come to this planet. Maybe there were karmas that wanted to be worked out. Maybe you knew that this was the time. This was the time when we, as a collective, could make great change. A time when there would be a breaking down and a birthing of something new. There is no mistake that you are here. You're meant to be here. And just really let that sink in to your body. That as a soul, we need you. We need you tuned in to your guidance. You matter. Your voice matters. Those impulses you receive of how to give and how to act in your life, that they matter. That they're so needed at this time. And how much we would be able to create if we were all fully acting in that place without the doubt, without the fear, without all the things holding us back. to be in that full loving encouragement of each other. To remember that you are divine. You are that essence that is greater, that we can tune into and receive guidance from, but that you are that. And just take a moment to tune into your divinity and how we need this essence here in this time of great change. And how you may choose to live your life in alignment with that divinity. If you were not questioning it, how would you be living your life? How would you be giving and creating? What would you be following? What would your heart be telling you to do? So you can stay connected to that throughout this call today. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So when I think of the priestess, I think of a woman who is first and foremost here to serve. She is the one who is listening for that divine guidance and asking, Spirit, please use me. Please allow me to be an instrument for your healing and for your grace. She's a vessel. She's a channel for the divine. She brings what is formless into form. She's here to be this frequency for the sacred feminine and to help humanity drop from their head into their heart. So if you have this feeling, this deep calling of feeling impacted by the state of the world, feeling called to serve, perhaps feeling highly intuitive, knowing that you've always been someone who's maybe a little more sensitive in your life. Maybe you seek out ritual, creating a mundane moment into something that is sacred, even just lighting a candle before sitting down to meditate, or maybe saying a prayer before a meal. If you feel that you are very in tune with the cycles of the moon, and you're always kind of looking at the moon and where is she at right now, and what can I learn from her, and how is my body being in tune with the moon? If you feel the world deeply, if you identify with being empathic, you're tuned into something deeper. Or perhaps you have prophetic dreams, a very active dream world. In ancient times, some of the priestesses were known for the king would come and ask questions and learn from them based on what they were receiving in their dreams. Or maybe you're naturally drawn to holding space. Maybe you're the person that all your friends come to, and when they have a challenge or having a hard time and they ask you for guidance. You know, these are all signs that there's a priestess within you, that this is something that is awakening and wanting to be more fully expressed. And you're in the right place. So, as we all know, we're in a very pivotal time in Earth's history. It's 2020. We don't actually have other time than now to be saying yes to these gifts that we have and stepping in to create this global shift. I remember at the beginning of this year, I was reading an astrology report, and it was like literally what happens this year is going to set us on a new course for the next 3 years. And we're going to see the effects of what happens in the next 3 years come to a fruition in 40 years down the line. And I just think of like the children that are being born right now and how they're so ready to be birthing and building this new world, and just the opportunity, this sacred opportunity that we have in there. And Earth herself is going through this ascension process, this birth process, and it can sometimes get a little messy. If any of you have given birth or been present at a birth, it's not all roses. There's a lot of power in that. And sometimes there is this energy of death and destruction and that fire energy that happens in order for this new soul to enter into the world. And so much of the priestess path is actually about initiation. How many times have you gone through a death and rebirth portal in your own life? How often has something been totally destructed or destroyed in order for there to be new life and for that phoenix to rise from the ashes? I feel like often we are constantly going through these death and these rebirth cycles. We're seeing a lot of this breaking down in our collective. We're seeing just everything that's happened with COVID-19. There's a lot of polarization in the field. There's a lot of just unknown. And with the elections coming up, it can feel kind of intense. So I wanted to start off with just offering a couple tools, how to just hold your center as we move through these challenging times, this time of breaking down systems and the old ways of beings, the things that are not working anymore, so that we can birth this new world. So the first tool, this is the 6 spiritual tools for great acceleration and ascension. The first tool is to, when you're in that moment of challenge, when you're being faced with something like, oh my God, I don't know how to deal with this. This is too much. The first thing is to just notice your resistance. Where are you holding resistance to what is happening? And often we create more suffering from being in resistance to what is than the actual thing that is happening. And if we can notice what in ourselves is like pushing against everything that's happening, and to rather just soften and to ask, like, wow, Great Spirit, please help me dissolve this resistance, to really deeply listen and to allow what is happening to soften. And it doesn't mean that we're just going to be pushovers and allow horrible things to happen. It's just that we're going to soften the resistance to what is, so that we can come back into our center, perhaps feel the deep feelings that want to be felt. Maybe there's grief there. Maybe there's rage. Maybe there's shame or guilt that wants to be released and given back to the earth. To feel our feelings completely in those moments, to dissolve the resistance to what is, to come into that state of softening and surrender and prayer and allowing. And when we come to that place, I really find that we're able to move forward or take action when action is called for, from a much more grounded place. When we're willing to feel the feelings that need to be felt, and when we offer up and soften our resistance. And so the way to do this is really just simply with a prayer, to take that pause before going into reactivity and to ask yourself, how can I release this resistance? How can I tune in to something greater? Great Spirit, please help me to align with you. The second tool is to remember what brings you joy. So even in amidst of chaos and uncertainty and unknown and great change, to remember, even if it's just something really small that brings you joy, to remember that and to make that a priority in your life. Because it's so important that when we tap into that frequency of joy and what makes us feel alive and connected, we're open to synchronicity in our life. We're open to meeting the people that we need to meet, the circumstances that we need to have in order to be of that greater service. And honestly, when you are in your joy and you are sharing from that place, you are able to have so much more to give. If you're constantly taking away from yourself or saying, gosh, there are other people in the world that are suffering. Oh, who am I to be, doing something nice for myself? It's not actually being of service. Like, yes, of course, notice the privilege that we have in that, but to also realize that you can give so much more when you are tapping into those things. And I just invite you right now to think about that. Like, what brings you into a state of timelessness? Or even if you were to think, if I only had 2 weeks left to live, what would I be doing? How would I be spending my time? And when I ask that question to myself, it's most definitely like spending time in nature, spending time with people I love, eating delicious food. Like, think of the amount of appreciation that we have if we were to live our lives that way. And to really think of, like, our souls incarnated, yes, to serve, but also to experience this earthly realm and to have fun and to play in that. So that's a reminder I wanted to share. The third tool is to co-create with life and to release our attachments to the outcome. So I know when I was first starting my coaching business and putting things together, I was very fixed on my goals. I was like, I want X, Y, and Z to happen. I want my life to look like X, Y, and Z. And I was so focused and direct and determined to make that happen no matter what. And honestly, that energy is very constrictive. And I've been realizing over the past couple of years, some of the things in my life that have been the most miraculous, where I've been in that state of deep awe, have been the things that I didn't even dream up myself. And to recognize that, like, we are in this beautiful co-creation with life, with the universe, that it's not just about what we want in our lives. It's about moving from this very individualist way of being into, hey, how can we look at the collective and how can we be of service in a way that is for the greater good? And I heard recently a woman speaking just about COVID-19 and how incredible that we're realizing that in order for us to be healthy, we actually need to care about the health of everyone on this planet. And that we're so interconnected in this way. And so when we think about manifestation and things like this, the law of attraction, there's this pitfall that we can get into of like, well, something bad happened in my life, so I must not be doing it right. I must like get down on myself or shame myself for doing it wrong. And it's not actually about that. Like, what's most important is that you are choosing to respond to life in a way that is of that highest and best good, that deepest alignment. And, hard things happen in life. This is how we grow. And so to just recognize that, like, wow, maybe my soul is choosing this on a greater level so that I can step into more empowerment, so that I can choose to respond to life with love, so I can see that everything in my life is happening for me, not to me. So this is the third tool, just co-creating with life, receiving life, letting go of our attachments of what we need things to look like, and to surrender this will into being in full co-creation with the universe. Okay, the fourth tool is to shift the mentality of war from the inside out. And what this means is we have this incredible opportunity in our relationships, in our interpersonal relationships, in our lives, to be giving in a way that that is creating more peace. And so there's this concept called morphogenetic fields. Some of you may be familiar with this. It was coined by this man, Rupert Sheldrake. And it's this idea that there are these immaterial informational fields that exist that we're tapped into. And when something happens in one part of the world and people learn how to do something in a new way and more people start doing it, it actually creates a field where it becomes easier for everyone else in the world to tap into that same thing. So for an example, when we are creating war with each other and also in our relationships, we are adding to that field of war and that field of polarization. But when we dig deep into ourselves and cultivate compassion, let's say you are in a partnership or you have a friendship and there's been a challenge or a conflict, I personally call upon Mother Mary when I'm in those moments, and I just ask to really be tapped into that deep level of compassion, to be willing to see from another person's perspective, and to find that seed of compassion within myself, to not have to be right, but to be willing to find peace in a relationship. And of course, in some relationships, we need to just set boundaries and take care of ourselves. And maybe that person is not willing to grow and evolve with you, but to still hold that energy in that relationship with love. And of course, if you need to set boundaries, set boundaries. But to recognize that we can dig deep within ourselves and to find that level of compassion and understanding, and recognize that when we do that, every time we do that, we neutralize the polarization in the field and we add to this field of peace, the morphogenetic field of peace. When we are tapped in and adding to that field, we make it easier for everyone else on the planet to be tapping in and understanding how that field of peace works. And I was listening to a talk with Charles Eisenstein where he was talking about this. And he said, like, in the last 30 years, we've actually been able to avoid many different wars because the field of peace is actually growing stronger. And to know that there are so many people on this planet right now who are doing this deep inner work and doing this in their interpersonal relationships and looking beyond the smallness of the ego and wanting to be right and to fight and to be reactive, but actually to hold that deeper level of compassionate for the ones in our lives around us. It is making a difference. So it's important to remember that. And I thank all of you that I know so many of you are already doing this work. Okay, the fifth tool is to strengthen the body as a vessel. So if we think of this priestess path as an opportunity to be a channel, a vessel for the divine, this body is actually just a vehicle to be doing our work in this life. This human form is an amazing vehicle that we have to be kind to others and to be that light in the world and to learn the lessons that we need to learn. And we want to take good care of this body. We want to treat this body like a temple. And in particular, like, we want to strengthen this body. We want to allow exercise to take place in our lives. And I've actually, I teach mostly yin yoga, but what I've been drawn to in my personal practice right now, which is really interesting to me, is Ashtanga yoga, which is like one of the most strengthening and like very disciplined type of yogas that exist from India. But it's really serving right now and holding that field in my body, seeing this body as a vessel and strengthening it to be able to hold the frequencies that we're stepping into. So if this is an invitation for all of us to just ask, like, how do I want to be loving my body right now? Feel free to even just put that in the chat box and be sharing with each other. Like, what are some of the things that you want to be, that maybe you've been putting off, but it's like, wow, I want to recommit to that. How can I find accountability for that? How can I find a buddy in my life to exercise with, or maybe to make delicious, nutritional meals? So really seeing this body as a vessel and taking supreme care of yourself. Okay, number 6. This is the last tool that I want to just offer you to start us off today. And the 6th tool is about forgiveness, and especially forgiving yourself. So we can get really mean to ourselves. Let's say you decide you're going to make a commitment to a spiritual practice or to exercise or to anything in your life, and you mess it up or you miss a day or whatever it is. We can be so mean to ourselves about that. And what I've been receiving again and again, this guidance to not be dramatic about it and to just forgive yourself immediately, to recognize like, wow, I forgive myself for whatever that is. Maybe you make a mistake in your life, whatever, to forgive and to move forward. So if you are one that ever gets stuck in feeling shame or guilt about maybe something you did or something that you're learning in your life, recognize that like that just shows you that you're a good person and that you want to align with what is good and what is right. And that's an amazing quality. And that shame and that guilt is just there to help you realign. And then you can offer it to the earth. I literally, if that comes up for me, I go outside and I put my hands on the earth and I just ask, earth, please help me transmute this. Please help me let this go. I wish to forgive myself so that I can realign and move forward in my life. So I'll pause there and just check in with the chat box and any questions that anyone might be having. You're welcome to ask any of those questions. Yay, loving this. Thank you. Qigong with your husband, amazing. Eating no sugar, oh my God, sugar is my kryptonite. That's been the thing in my life that I've really had to be firm with myself about. And actually this week, I was experiencing a lot of sadness and grief. I was moving through, the phase of my menstrual cycle where after ovulation, I generally have a few days of just feeling some grief and sadness before, like as my body prepares to shed. And like sugar is the thing that I want to go to in those times. And I actually, in a moment of weakness, just like bought something. It was a healthy like chocolate bar, but it had sugar in it. And I was eating it this week and noticing like, wow, my addiction tendencies coming right back up. And I used this practice. It was like, okay, I'm noticing that this is not serving me. This is calling me back into those addiction tendencies. I'm going to give this away and let it go. But I'm also going to forgive myself for going back to it, to wholly forgiving that piece and then moving forward in realignment. Okay, so I'm going to go into sharing a bit about these 5 core wounds of the priestess and how we can move beyond them. So I've been doing one-on-one work with women for a very long time, maybe like over 7 years now. And in this work, I've really gotten to see the places where we get stuck, where again and again women come up against their edges of not being able to move forward. And over this time, I've identified these 5 core wounds that are very common with other women and in our lives. And I'm going to offer some tools of how we can work with them. And these 5 wounds in particular are really, we see them a lot when we feel called to the priestess path. So the first one is the fear of being seen. And so this is a big one. This is something that if we think back to ancient times when priestesses were walking on the planet and living and breathing the mystery schools, and there was actually a very real unsafety that a lot of people had, especially women, especially magical women, those of us that maybe worked with herbs or knew how to heal or would maybe considered the witches or the medicine women in society, or the women that were very tuned into those divine realms, the priestesses, that it was actually not safe to be seen. Sometimes a lot of this work had to be done in secret. And even in our ancestry, like if you think about your great-grandmother, your great-great-grandmother, for many, many women, it was not safe to lead. It was not safe to be standing up and sharing her gifts and speaking out against the norm, because literally those women could be stoned. They could be killed. They could be persecuted. And this wound lives, it can live in our cells, in our cellular memory, if this is something we've experienced in a past life, or if this is something that maybe a woman in our ancestry has experienced, I really believe that many of us are here to heal this wound and to actually know that, okay, it was not safe in those times, but in this day and age, like when we're about to make the social media post and we're feeling so afraid and, what if someone attacks me? What if something goes wrong? Like, chances are we're not actually physically going to be attacked when we do that. And to recognize that we're in a time now of evolution where it is more safe to be sharing. It is more safe to be seen as powerful and to be healers and leaders. And actually, it's part of the great change that we're here for, and to heal this wound, and that we're needed it right now to be sharing our gifts. But how do we work with that cellular memory that might be living within us in our subconscious? How do we work with that? And so the healing balm that I see around this is that to come together in sisterhood and to know that there are women who have your back no matter what, and to believe there are people that I can trust in this life. When you feel that, when you feel that in your body and you know that, even if there is an energy of attack, like there's something that you can fall back on. There's a feeling of being held. And I love creating sisterhood spaces because of that, because when we come together in the collective, we are stronger and we feel that support for each other, and we feel more confident in taking those steps forward and sharing our gifts in a bigger way and being seen. Now, another way that I help women heal this wound is with EFT tapping. You might be familiar with tapping on meridian points. I'm a trained tapping facilitator, and I use another modality that's called matrix re-imprinting, where we go into memories and we even go into past lives sometimes and actually gain insight of, okay, where did this originate? Where did this core belief originate that I'm not safe if I'm seen? And start to use the tapping, because the tapping helps release trauma on a cellular level. It helps us access that more somatic part, that amygdala part of the brain that goes into fight, flight, or freeze. And we're able to identify those moments, use the tapping on our bodies, but also with our younger selves in these memories to release and to heal. So one of my biggest challenges in life actually was my fear of public speaking. Like, I could not get up and speak in front of a group of people. I could not even introduce myself in a group. It was only like 7, 8 years ago when I really started healing this wound and feeling more confident in teaching yoga and leading workshops and sharing with other women, sharing myself on social media, all of these things. There was a really deep fear there of like, what's going to happen if I do this? It was like something that lived in my body that was deeper than just a normal fear of public speaking. And so what really helped me with this was the tapping and going into some of those memories that I've been carrying around those deep-rooted fears and unwiring them and releasing them and creating new stories and new beliefs and even new memories in my subconscious where I'm safe and I'm protected and I have what I need. And so that's some of the ways that I help women to heal that wound. So the second core wound is the fear of being judged. And so there's a lot of fear around that, even just stigma around the word priestess, like for one, to claim that in your life, even not to mention just what I mentioned before, the cellular feeling in your body, but to claim this word in your life, it's very vulnerable. People can judge it. People think it's different. They don't understand it. Going against the social norms, our fears come up from like being in middle school and not fitting in. All of that can come up. And one of the healing balms that I've been using to work with this is actually working with the dark goddess energy to call upon the element of fire to burn away these parts that like are really caring so much of what other people think of me. Can I burn that away? Can I call upon the energy of that sacred divine feminine that is a little bit more in her power or in her rage to burn up the pieces that are afraid of feeling like, gosh, I'm going to be judged. I can't do this. And then the other piece is to ask what you are in service to. Like, what is bigger than your fear of being judged? What can you align yourself with that is so true for you that you just want to move forward, that it doesn't even matter what other people think because you're here to be of service? And a lot of the time, like even perhaps leading this webinar, like I think about that woman who might be suffering or really needing to hear these words, rather than thinking about what are people going to think about me? What is my family going to think about me? What are all of these bigger things and these stories that start spinning? To focus on the service. The third is the wound of being alone and being isolated. This is a big one. So in our current society, so many of us, especially after going through these shelter-in-place times, and some of you might still be in it, to feel like we're just alone, working in our homes by ourselves. The essence of the feminine is meant to be collaborative. It's meant to be a collective. It's meant to be working together, to be supporting of each other. And it can feel so painful when we are here alone in our little box doing things by ourselves. And the healing balm for this is community. And especially those times in your life when you are feeling bogged down by jealousy or comparison with other women, because I know that's a big wound that a lot of us carry. To do the inner work around that of, wow, this woman is showing me what I want. This woman is showing me what is possible. This woman is calling me into my greatness. And to see that as an opportunity, and of course, feel the feelings that you're having around it, and hold yourself and love your inner child for feeling left behind or anything you might be feeling. And then to step into greater community and creating community. And so this year, I'm going to be leading a priestess program, a way of stepping into these ways of the priestess and having community. And one of the reasons I do that is because part of the training is to be learning how to be holding your own circles and women's circles virtually or in person, and cultivating community, because we need that. We need these spaces in the world where we can come together and be vulnerable and authentic and share our truth, and to have people that know how to set a strong container for those spaces to happen, and for women to feel safe and to let go of some of those deep wounds that we have been carrying around sisterhood or around community, and to step back into this essence of sharing and collaboration. Number 4, let's see, I'll just go back, and review. The first is being seen. The second is being judged. The third is being alone. The fourth is the fear of being unworthy or not enough. And this is literally what the patriarchy wants you to feel, what capitalist society wants you to feel in order to sell you things. When you're not feeling worthy, when you're not feeling like you're enough, you need to go outside of yourself to find that. We need to go on our social media platforms. We need to be going to the store and going shopping. We need to be, looking at things that are not really in alignment with our deepest values and goals. And so this is an opportunity to really think about, how do you even treat your body? How are you talking to yourself in a day-to-day? Are you very critical of yourself? Or are you holding thoughts of love and care and kindness? The first step is really just awareness. Something that broke my heart recently was a sister that I know shared with me about having given this amazing talk, given a talk in front of hundreds of people at this concert. And she sent me some photos, and it was like, the first thing she said to me was like, "Oh, I look fat." And it just broke my heart, because for a woman who was such amazing gifts and talents and courage to be doing that work, and then to just be focusing on the ways that she felt unworthy. Think about how much energy we would be able to call back and how much we would be able to activate in our lives if we're not draining our energy around feeling unworthy and feeling like our bodies are not enough. Like, how much energy are we draining into this feeling of unworthiness that could be used to really activate change? So the healing balm for this, I see, is how can we let these voices come to light in a safe space so that our greatness can be reflected back to us? And, I'm glad that sister shared that with me so that I could, that's what the patriarchy wants you to think, so that you don't actually make amazing world change in your life, and let that go and call back your energy and to say, for me, I just was able to hold a reflection to her of how amazing she was. And we have this incredible power as women, to be reflecting the beauty and the power that we each have. If you have mentors in your life, guides in your life, or women you trust in your life to hold that reflection back to you, it is so, so, so healing to receive it. And ask yourself, am I really letting myself receive it? Because sometimes we receive a compliment and we deflect it right away. We compliment the person back right away instead of just receiving it. And I like to give this practice to people I work with. When you receive a compliment, can you practice breathing it in and simply saying, thank you. Thank you for noticing. Because what you're doing on a cellular level is you're allowing that compliment to penetrate your being, and you're expanding your capacity to receive. And you're really recognizing your worthiness. So that's a really simple practice you can start using. That's the fourth wound. The fifth one is being highly sensitive. And this is actually a gift in disguise, but some of us can actually start to feel so bogged down from the world, or feeling so stuck. I've known and talked to many people who are like, I'm so sensitive to what's happening right now. I actually can't even get out of bed. I can't move forward at all. I don't know how to be in the world. I can't be around crowds. Those of us that feel that way, we need to have really good boundaries. And one of the tools that I have for this is energetic boundaries and energetic clearing, and being able to recognize that we have different needs. And yeah, maybe we can't go to parties or places where there are big crowds of people, but to recognize that we can love and take care of ourselves in a way rather than focusing on the missing out. It's such a gift to be highly sensitive, and we need to be highly sensitive in order to be tuned into those very fine, sometimes soft, quiet messages that we receive from the divine. Like, we actually need to be that tuned in. And of course, on the other side, it can be hard to be interacting in the world when we're feeling so sensitive. So I'm going to lead us through just an energetic clearing that you can use in your life that could be really supportive if you identify with this one. So let's just close our eyes for a moment. And I invite you to send a grounding cord down to the center of the earth. And that grounding cord can be from your sacral chakra, just sending it down, connecting in the center of the earth. Feeling that grounding earth energy, and just notice what your grounding cord looks like or feels like, texture of it. And then just begin to notice your aura and just see, are there any smokiness or darkness that we just want to send down the grounding cord? And what you can do is just gather up any of that energy that's not yours or it doesn't feel aligned, and just send it down the grounding cord. And you can imagine the center of the earth is just full of that hot magma. And the Mother Earth is just happy to transmute it immediately for you. Just like, it just gets transmuted instantly. And then just imagine there's a sun above your head. And inside that sun is your name. And inside of that sun is also just the world's most powerful magnet. And I'll invite you to say out loud in your own space, I call my energy back now. And as you call your energy back, notice your energy coming back from all the people, places, and things. All the people, places, and things where it's been left behind. Partners, situations, experiences, family. All of those places where you've left behind your energy. And see the sun starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger until it just starts to get so big, so filled up. And you can place your index finger on the crown of the head as if you're making a little hole in the top of the head. And place your index finger in the bottom of the sun. And now all that golden light, that golden energy that has been immediately purified in the central sun, now begins to come down into your body. All of your own energy pools down into the tips of your toes, moving up into the feet and the legs, into the hips, into the womb, into the solar plexus and the heart. It moves down into the fingertips, it moves up into the throat and into the head. It pulls out of the crown of the head and just fills your aura, golden light, filling up your aura until you find yourself surrounded almost like a golden egg. Imagine golden energy moving down the front of your body and up the back, down the back and up the front, down the right and up the left, down the left and up the right. From the center of the heart around this body, from the center of the heart around the left side of the body, until you find yourself here in this golden egg, and all of those streams of light join together into this field of containment. And just imagine around that golden egg that there is royal blue. Royal blue is a color of protection. It's a way to just have a boundary with the world. And you can still interact with the world with lots of love, and anyone that wants to share with you in a loving way, they can totally interact with you. But anything that you don't want, any of those negative energies, stay on the outside. And then we'll just surround that with the violet flame so that any of those negativities that try to come into our sphere are just burned up. And you get to be contained in your own space. Okay, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. I'd love to hear how that was for you in your energy, just feeling that little bit of difference. Laughter medicine from the rooster. I know, I get to be woken up very early by him. It's nice to have an imagery of a place to send the unwanted energy. Another way that we can work with unwanted energy is with the rose. So if you are feeling like you're in your field of containment and there's still some lingering energies that are not yours, imagine placing that outside of your aura. Bring in a rose and just have the rose dissolve that energy, because the rose is of such a high frequency. And the rose is very much about boundaries. You know, the rose has the thorns, and it can dissolve that energy. Feeling peaceful, centered, noticing a lot of tingling on my left side when I call my energy back. Okay, I'm going to answer a couple questions from Naya. Her question is, I'm in such a transitional period in my life with many dreams of where I can go and the things I can bring forth for others. Something that I crave is sisterhood, but I don't know where to find it or how to build sisterhood in my life. How do you recommend finding sisterhood during these times? Yeah, that's a great question. And first, I just want to recognize the desire, the innocent desire that you have in this question to have other women that you connect with in your life. And it's so beautiful to want that and to be in the energy of that desire. And I'll share with you a story. When I first moved to Sonoma County, I moved from, I was in the East Bay, and it was a very intuitively guided move. But I didn't know anyone who lived in that community. And I went about 6 weeks without having any sisters, any friends, 6 weeks, 2 months, before meeting anyone I really connected with. And it was really painful. It was like really painful to feel that energy. And I remember one day I was just like driving home from town and feeling that loneliness. And I literally just pulled over on the side of the road and had to cry because it was such a deep longing and a desire. And I called forth all of my guides. And from that place of total humility, I asked for help. And actually, I'll tell you the process I use. It's called the miracle prayer. So the first step is to state the situation. So in this instance, it would be, I'm longing for sisterhood, and I don't know where to find it. And especially in these times, it's harder to be in person with people to find it. The second step is to anywhere you can take responsibility, you know? So for me in that instant, it was like I chose to move to a place where I didn't know anyone. And I take responsibility for that. And it just, in that energy of taking responsibility, it just lets go any victimhood and invites us to be in our sovereignty and in our power. And then the next step, the third step, is to just pile up anything that feels painful or difficult or that we don't know or how to move ahead. I like to visualize it as like garbage or smoke or anything that we don't know how to move ahead with. We can just hold that and imagine offering it to the universe. And then to be in your prayer. And I think what's really important, like if you are asking for help from the guides, like to humble yourself enough to just say, like, I need help. I don't know the answer. Please help me. I'm open to receive the guidance, and I invite in the energies that will support me for the highest and best good. Ask for that help. And then to offer it up, usually I take 3 deep breaths. I imagine giving it to the guides. And on that third breath, I just imagine fully letting it go. And then the last step is to believe that the miracle is already on its way. It's already coming to you. And so for me, in that instant of pulling over on the side of the road, I was in tears and just praying to God, to the universe, please help me. Please bring me a friend. Please bring me someone that I can connect with and feel supported by in this life. And just went home, went about my day. And the next morning, I felt a very strong calling to go to a yoga class. It was like 6:30 in the morning. I was like, I don't usually go to yoga this early. But I found myself at this very small studio space. And there were only 2 other people in the class, a very small room. And it was a young woman and an older man. And at the end of the class, I noticed the younger woman looked really sweet. And I just said to her, I'm new here. And I introduced myself. And And that friend, we exchanged phone numbers. Like, I took the courageous step of putting myself out there and asking if she wanted to exchange numbers and have tea sometime. Sometimes we have to meet the universe halfway and do something that's a little vulnerable or scary. And we did. We met later that week. And that friend, some of you might know her, Mackenzie Madrone. She's an amazing singer and a dear friend. She became like my very first friend in Sonoma County. And she was the gateway to all the other friends that I met. So I just share that story with you for some hope. And I'm sure that the other sisters here all, might have some ideas for you, or maybe even would want to connect with you after this call. So anyone else that has ideas for just sisterhood and finding and forming connections, let Naya know in the chat box. A lot of what we can do is, at least during this time, are the online communities that are available. And I form a sisterhood community through the program I lead. It's 10 months long, and deep friendships are able to be born in that space because we're really getting to know each other and showing up to these group calls over a long period of time. And sometimes it helps to have someone facilitating or holding the space just to create consistency and connection and in order to come together in a deep way. But I would also say just follow what you love, because what you love is going to guide you to places. Oh, and the other one is volunteering. I've made some amazing friends through volunteering my energy in places. And anything that is breaking your heart in the world, think about how you can be giving back and volunteering, and maybe you meet more people through that. I'm going to look at some of these questions. Yeah, so let me go back. There's 2 questions here. Okay, so Cassie asked about manifestation. There's so much emphasis on manifestation. It's usually selfish and not so broad. How do you let go while still creating? I heard you mention something on this. Yeah, so I'll speak to this because I think it's true. A lot of us have gotten swept up in this energy of creating perfect lives and creating and getting everything we want with this energy of manifestation and law of attraction. And what I spoke to before is that it's a co-creation with the universe. So one, recognize it's beautiful to have desires. It's beautiful to have heart callings. There are things that you're going to be drawn to in your life that you want to create and step into in your life that you're worthy of and that you can create. And when we get attached to it and we start grasping onto it and making it happen at all costs, we actually can take all the joy out of it, and it can feel really miserable. It's like, here I am in that, whatever you were wanting to manifest, $1 million house, and some people get what they want, and then they're just feeling miserable in the process. So how can we work in a way where manifestation is a co-creation with the universe, and recognizing that, yes, I have some desires and seeds that I want to plant, and I completely let that go too, to be in the flow of what the universe wants to bring to me. Because when we offer that up and just open to receive, sometimes it's even better than what you could have imagined. Sometimes when we're not so grasping onto the way we want things to look, it's so much that we could have never even expected is able to flow into our lives. So one of the practices I use is just a few minutes of meditation a day, just being in the energy of what I'm calling in. So right now I'm calling in the energy of magic, awe, and beauty and wonder. And so I will just imagine myself in that energy and how good it feels and how grateful I feel to be in that energy. And I'll just be in it for a few minutes. And maybe there's some pictures that come that I can see and feel. And then I just let it go. And if that happens, amazing. But if not, to be open to what the universe wants to bring to you. And I think that's really powerful to make that shift in our lives of co-creation with the universe. Let's see, from Olga, I feel so much moving these times that it's hard for me to make decisions. Is indecisiveness something collective? Yeah, that's something that can be a challenge for sure, and something I can relate to. Let me just tune in on how I can best answer that question. Sometimes questions that we're holding in our heart need to be left unanswered until the time is ripe to understand. Sometimes we live into our decisions, and sometimes we can ask questions and signs from the universe in order to make those decisions that are for the highest and best good. It's important that you know that there are actually no mistakes. So like, even if you make a choice and you later decide, actually, I don't think I want this, you always have free will to choose something else instead. And there's no mistakes. It's just learning. So sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves of making the best decision, and it has to be right, and it has to be perfect, and we have to get it right the first time. And like, we're all in this earth school together. We're all figuring it out and learning along the way. So the more that you can just be in that openness and that receptivity of just like, okay, I'm going to choose something because it feels right now, but I'm taking off that pressure so that I can be in that space of, if it's not the right decision, I can pivot and change in the future. Sometimes it's just about lifting the pressure off so that you can try things out and have fun. Like, allow there to be an energy of fun in your decision making, and just allow it to be a flow. Yeah, so how would you best describe a path to become a high priestess? Is it different for everyone, or are there shared experiences that make a part of the archetype? So one thing I'll share with you is that if you feel a calling to the priestess path, it is something that you can claim and step into and embody and self-initiate on your own, like fully. Like, you don't actually need, you don't need a certification or anything like that. It's in you. Like, it's a remembering. It's something that you can step on into the path, and we're living our lives and in this mystery school of life in order to learn and grow and evolve together. Now, that being said, sometimes it can feel really lonely. It can feel like I don't know how to move ahead. I don't feel like I have any guidance. And for those of you that are feeling like I could use some guidance, and I would love to have someone hold my hand through some of these harder initiations I'm going through, or I would love to have a little bit of a curriculum and understanding behind this, something like the program that I'm offering would be an amazing step just to be in the learning and the evolvement. The path of the priestess and the high priestess, it's a lifelong path. It's beyond this lifetime even. So we're always going to be learning and growing and evolving and being in ritual together. And if you feel a resonance with a certain teacher or a guide or a community where you can learn and grow and blossom, say yes to that and enjoy and continue to be on your path. There are certain guides we're going to meet on our life path along the way that will provide that key that we need for our next steps. And it is going to be different for everyone. So we're going to be going through our own life initiations to be in that role. And for you, Jennifer, maybe it is facilitation and space holding and embodiment, and you're wanting to learn some tools and facilitation skills and how to do that. So something like the training program I offer can be of support, but this is something that exists within you and that we are opening to remember. From that question, I think I'll just take a few minutes to share about the program that I'm leading this year, so that any of you that are feeling like, wow, actually, I would love to have community. I would love to have guidance and support, and that feels really positive for me. If that is you, then I'd love to invite you into the program that I offer, which is the Way of the Priestess. I'm going to do a screen share. And I'm just going to share with you a bit about the program guide. This is something you can download. It's at risingwomanleaders.com/priestess, and you're welcome to download this and learn more about it and see if it resonates for you. But I was guided to create this program when that deep calling came in of like to be of service, to call the women together who feel called to this path, to help them to purify, to align, to activate in ritual space, in claiming their gifts, in feeling supported and nurtured on their path. So we begin December 13th, so it's still a few weeks away. And already I have several women who have said yes and are joining for this next round. And I've been leading it this year. We started in March, and it was so powerful to see that, this was the year we really needed support and community, and we were able to be here with each other through all of these big changes. So in the guide, I share just a little bit about the energy of the priestess, what it means joining together in a sisterhood, how powerful it is when we have an intentional space to show up as we are, to be authentic and vulnerable, and the deep healing that can happen in this space. Those of us that feel called to be birthing this new world as healers, wisdom keepers, teachers, earth protectors, highly sensitive women, wanting to give back and to serve at our highest potential. So every month we have these new and full moon sisterhood calls. We meet generally on a Sunday. We go through all the high holy days together of different rituals that we can be learning about through the wheel of the year. And there are also these private healing sessions that you get to have throughout the container, where I work with people one-on-one, specifically about looking at some of those core wounds or beliefs that might be holding us back in different areas of our life. I do the EFT tapping, the matrix work, where we go into those healing spaces. I also have just a lot of experience as a coach and a guide, and if there are specific goals you're wanting to step into in your life, you can have that support and that guidance. And the container itself, it's an opportunity to make this part of your life a priority, to really step into your spiritual practices and to have some guidance around it. I think of the energy of the priestess as one who is here to serve and also is a very powerful woman. And for us to remember that power and to recognize and claim that power and to take supreme care of ourselves, we're going to have so much more to give in this life. So recognizing and having an opportunity to step into a container and a program where that's your priority for the coming year, it's so much is able to come forth and to be given and to be created in the time that you step into a container like this. So just working with some of the values: femininity, devotion, wildness, compassion, boundaries, prosperity, service, love, leadership, and vision. So each month in the program, you have modules, which is a curriculum that I've created, videos and audios. And then about twice a month, we meet on these live sisterhood calls. They're about 90 minutes long. Each month, I'm sharing different facilitation skills of how to be holding space in your community or creating your own circles virtually or in person. We have our Facebook group, a WhatsApp group where we're checking in with each other. If you want to have an accountability sister in the group to go deeper with someone, the other thing I'll mention is I hold pretty intimate spaces. This year we've had 15 women in the group. So this is a space where you're really going to get to know the other sisters and feel a sense of intimacy in this space. New and full moon rituals, lots of guest mentor videos. And what I thought I would share with each of you is just that if you're feeling like this is a yes for you, feeling like called to this is the link you can use to sign up for a call. Even if you're not sure, but you want some guidance just around the path of the priestess and where you're at right now, this is an opportunity to look at some of the challenges you might be having and to receive some space holding and guidance around stepping into the dreams and visions that you're holding right now. So I've opened up my calendar in the next week for anyone that's feeling called to have that space, 45 minutes, totally free call where we get to connect. Let me go back to share more about the curriculum. I'm holding 8 partial scholarships. 4 of them are specifically for women of color, and 4 of them are need-based scholarships. And on the call, or when you download the guide on the website, You can learn more about the payment options and the pricing. So the curriculum that we're stepping into, the first month we go into the foundations of energetic clearing, looking at the wheel of the year, astrological foundations. I have teachings both about Western astrology and Vedic astrology. I'm now a student of Vedic astrology, which is so interesting to me. It's like actually what's being reflected in the stars in the sky and present reality. And we get to look at your chart and you learn some different things. We also work with a goddess guide and ascended master each month of the program who you'll get to learn more about and how to work with that energy. So the first month we work with Isis. The second month we work with Mother Mary, the energy of healing the womb, rose wisdom, forgiveness. I've worked with many, many women around healing trauma, sexual abuse, times in our lives when our boundaries felt violated, and these are all themes that we explore in that space. Wildness, which is the energy of Sekhmet, the lioness goddess, the queen archetype, working with boundaries and sacred power. Then we step into our role of activation. You can see purify, activate, align. We have Hathor. We work with the beauty way, the energy of creating beauty in the world and leaving a space that we find more beautiful than we found it. Fertility, sensuality, love, intimacy, creating a temple, body, home, altar. Sacred soul mission, we work with that archetype of Mary Magdalene, the activating the voice, refining our contribution, more of the women's circle facilitation, prosperity, healing our relationship to money, receiving, feminine abundance, magnetism, working with Lakshmi that month. Devotion and spiritual practice, which is working with daily sadhana and what pulls us away from our practices and what invites us closer to them, and how to forgive ourselves when we mess it up or skip a day or whatever it is, and then realign with that energy of devotion. Working with the power of prayer, dream world connection, the energy of the goddess Kuan Yin, death and rebirth. This is that energy as we're going into Samhain and the releasing and the shedding, the dark goddess, the Kali Ma, the what needs to be let go or burned or destroyed in order to step into this next phase of your evolvement. We have the legacy of love, where we work with Yeshua. What is the legacy you really wish to leave behind in this life? And then we prepare our vows of stepping into this role as a priestess, where everyone gets to share in a closing ceremony their vows and to be witnessed. It's so powerful to be held in space of a rite of passage like this, where you're witnessed and stepping forth into this new way of being. And then the last, we'll have like a virtual closing retreat weekend where we have practicing our facilitation, sharing our soul essence, being witnessed in ceremony as we share our vows as the priestess. Again, you have that link if you want to book a call for this week. My schedule, I have some openings for that. And I think when I was tuning in to that energy of just like, if you could leave today and only remember one thing, it would be that your essence matters. Like right here now on the earth plane, whether you are simply showing up to your practices or being kind to another person in your life, or smiling at the person at the grocery store, or maybe you're doing huge work. Maybe you're working with disadvantaged communities. Maybe you are showing up in huge ways as an essential worker. Maybe you are creating a whole nonprofit organization to save the coral. Like there's so many ways that we can be doing priestess work in the world. And the invitation is to just find what your life experience has been guiding you to, what both brings you joy and connection, and what also maybe breaks your heart in the world that is something that you want to be giving and contributing to in this life and making a difference in that way. I'd just like to leave each of us with the prayer that we each find our most aligned path, all that supports us in finding the deepest and most true fulfillment and alignment. May we let go and release any of the fears that have been holding us back, any of those stories that keep us small. May we remember the deep calling that we have inside of ourselves on this path. And for any of you that are feeling called or feel resonance for further support, know that I am here, that I will hold a compassionate, loving space for you to just share your heart. And just what a gift that is to have that space to just be in your sharing, to be fully seen, reflected in where you are at in this moment. May we call upon our courage, our grace, our power in doing the work that we each feel called to do in this life, and holding that pillar and that frequency of the sacred feminine, dropping from the head and into the heart to be of service in these incredibly powerful and transformative times. So with that, I will bow to each of you. Thank you so much for being here. It was really fun to answer your questions and to have this space. And I look forward to connecting with those of you that sign up for a call. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. If you liked it, share it with a friend or leave us a review on iTunes. You can also follow along on Instagram at Rising Woman Leaders and sign up for email updates at risingwomanleaders.com to be sure to receive all the new and inspiring content. Thanks again for being here. It's an honor to walk this path with you.